Good evening, everyone. First order of business. You need to imagine that Tom Morello's band is right behind us playing some good music. Very good. I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Patricia Aiken. Is the mic not working?
How about this one?
Work, but how's that?
Right in the mouth?
Right
Okay.
in the mouth. Already got lipstick on mine. I'd like to first introduce Chuck Pinocchio, my co-MC for the evening. Many of you know Chuck as a longtime fighter for single-payer Medicare for all. He's been the champion of the Medicare reform in the state of Pennsylvania. He's been an advocate for this for at least 10 years, as long as I've known him. He also ran for United States Senate, and he's a university professor to boot. So let's give Chuck Pinocchio a round of applause, and there's some extra information about him in the program.
Okay, and I have the honor of introducing Patty. Patty is a dear friend and a strong soul and a real fighter, not only for single payer, but for the working conditions of nurses here in Pennsylvania, and is a strong force in the national movement to give nurses a strong voice, a powerful voice in the workplace as well as in social reform. So for Patty, deeply grateful. Patty's a registered nurse, has been so since 1976, graduate of Thomas Jefferson. This is in your handout. She's been an ER nurse since 1999 and is president of PASNAP, Pennsylvania Association of Staff Nurses and Allied Professionals. And on a more personal note, Patty and I, along with a couple of other gentlemen, were the first in the nation to testify on single payer before the first Republican-chaired committee anywhere. That was the Pennsylvania State Senate in December 2009. That really is in many ways a high watermark for us, but the point being that the conversations do continue. They do push out. You have to imagine, you have to have these conversations. You have to plead with people to get an opening, to get a door open, because healthcare is not about ideology. It's very personal. It's something that can absolutely break through. You have to be persistent, and you have to be patient. And I take that lesson from Patty as well as my cohorts in Healthcare for All Pennsylvania. So with that, thank you, and thank you, Patty.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay.
Our program tonight involves several speakers who have been asked to speak for several minutes each. You're going to hear from members of the movie SiCKO and several other people, and ultimately you will hear from the star himself, Michael Moore. But first, we're going to give an overview of what's been going on, and particularly what's been going on in Pennsylvania. Do you want to do the Pennsylvania work first?
Yeah, this is a gathering this weekend not only to honor Michael Moore and the participants in this wildly successful movie SiCKO, which raised America's conscience. And as Michael told us a short time ago in a reception, I'm sure he'll underscore it again today, is that as much as people may not be thrilled with the Affordable Care Act, the fact is that the conversation has pushed, something is getting done, and hopefully we can build on this. And that's the purpose of this weekend, to celebrate where we've come and where we're going. It was back in 2009 that, starting here in Pennsylvania, reaching out to our friends in Maryland and California, and then beyond that, Minnesota and other states, now we're up to 22 states, we started a consortium called the One Payer States Network. The One Payer States Network, shorthand OPS, is a working group of 22 states working on single payer at the state level. It's an extraordinary group. There are so many people to thank, but I can't go down the list. We've got limited time, but the point is that we meet regularly, every other Friday, on the phone, talking about ideas. We bring in guest speakers. We share concepts about legislative breakthroughs, strategy, organizing, framing, fundraising, building out our organizations, so legal questions, you name it. And tomorrow we're going to be convening from 9 to 4 over at the William Way Center, leaders of the groups from around the nation. So that's part of the backdrop for this weekend, part of the context. But I want to say that the news at the state level, many of you have heard about Vermont, which by many's estimation, Vermont is on its way to single payer. It may be 3 years, it may be 5 years, but we really truly believe that they are on their way to single payer. As well, Hawaii is another state that's not on everybody's radar screen. Hawaii is a state that is moving towards single payer as well. Absolutely extraordinary stories coming out of Hawaii. They're the only medical association. Everybody's familiar with the American Medical Association. Well, their Hawaii chapter of the American Medical Association, believe it or not, is pro-single payer. And this really bodes well. Their former governor, Abercrombie, was a supporter of 676 in Congress. He's now the executive of Hawaii, and one of our key organizers is helping to lead the charge there. Other states that have made tremendous progress, California, the list goes on and on and on. We like to believe here in Pennsylvania we've made tremendous breakthroughs. So Vermont, Hawaii, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Wisconsin, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Maryland, Maine. We've got so many states that are represented this weekend, and I know that I've left many out, but the point is that we're working together, and the idea that everybody pushing together, working together in several places simultaneously gives us that much greater a chance to succeed in creating a single-payer system, Medicare for all, improved Medicare for all for the entire nation. So that's the good work of one-payer states, and you should be aware of that. So thank you.
Before I introduce our next speaker, I just wanted to make a couple of points about what it's like to be a nurse in this healthcare system. Eventually, everybody gets sick, unless you just die before you have a chance to get sick. But everybody's going to use and does use the healthcare system from the time they're born till the time they die. And when you have to work in this sick healthcare system, it's not healthcare, it's an insurance care system. When you have to work in it day after day and see patients come in who've had to postpone seeing their doctor, postpone getting pills, choose food over medication, try to cut their medication in half, it's heartbreaking. You see people who, with diseases that could be treatable, like hypertension, it's called the silent killer for a reason. It kills you from the inside and destroys your organs, and by the time you know it, you're already badly damaged, usually kidney disease. It's a disease that's easily treated most of 99% of the time if you have some simple medications and a doctor to see. I constantly see patients in the emergency room that I work in where people come in who haven't had any medication, haven't been able to see a doctor, might even come in for something else, and you find an extremely high blood pressure. It was so exciting to me when the SiCKO bus came to town. I don't know if you guys remember when the movie first came out, and I forget what year it was, 5 years ago. This is the 5th anniversary. The National Nurses United, California Nurses Association, of which I am a member of the board of directors. I'm proud to say that because I think that's been a fabulous organization that has led the charge across the country for Medicare for all. But I first got on the bus because they stopped in Philadelphia, and I sat down beside Donna Smith, somebody I think most of you folks know, Donna and her husband Larry, who had just recently come from the New York premiere, and the nurses union was in New York, had this big pink bus all wrapped with SiCKO information all around it, and they said, Donna, why don't you and Larry come do the bus tour with us? So, as you may know, Donna was bankrupt at the time and didn't really have other plans at the moment. And so she was on the bus there, and it was really exciting to meet her and get to know her, and it was very exciting to become part of this big fight to have universal, high-quality health care for everyone. So with that, I would like to introduce Michael Leidy, who is the political director of National Nurses United and the California Nurses Association, a longtime friend of mine. As he said, they let anybody in. Even if you're from California, you can get in here. And Michael Michael's an expert. Michael's a national expert on this issue, and he's going to show a video and give you some information about what's happening across the country.
Thank you, Patty and Chuck. It is an extraordinary honor to do what I do, which is every day work with registered nurses who save lives. And I have had that privilege for a number of years. And I never thought that there would be a comparable group of folks working around healthcare until I met the American SiCKOs that were in the film and that you'll see again tonight. And what this premiere of SiCKO meant to us in June of 2007 was an extraordinary moment of building an alliance between nurses and patients, uniquely and deeply, in a way that it hadn't been built before. We had the opportunity to work with Michael Moore back in the mid-90s around HMO reform. And I don't know if we have any fans of TV Nation in the audience, but you may recall the episode where we're out in front of Kaiser. We want to see the Kaiser. We want to see the Kaiser. So that was our first filmic experience with Michael Moore. But when it came time to premiere SiCKO in June of 2007, we did, as Patty said, wrap a bus. We had the chutzpah to put on the bus, RNs Present, Michael Moore's SiCKO. And very cute picture of Michael, if you remember that, with his putting on the surgical gloves. This is going to hurt a little, if you remember that tagline. And we took that bus, primarily on the East Coast, and we did some remarkable things. We started actually the first time in Sacramento, where we had a rally of 1,000 nurses and others march from the state capitol over to the theater for the showing, led by Michael. And that, ironically enough, was a moment somewhat similar to the current one, because at that point in California, the Speaker of the Assembly had decided that they too wanted a bill like Governor Romney had done in Massachusetts, but this time they were going to do it with the public option. So there was one group of activists working on the individual mandate and the public option, and there was another group of activists working on single payer. And into that difference came SiCKO. So we had two premieres that day. First with the nurses for single payer, and then for the Speaker of the Assembly and the public option crowd. And onward we went. It turned out that we ended up in Manchester, Vermont, where we did a policy discussion, and then we took the bus to the headquarters of every presidential campaign in New Hampshire. I said Vermont, didn't I? It's Manchester, New Hampshire. And we went to Manchester, and can you imagine when we pulled up at the John McCain headquarters with the SiCKO bus? That was fun. That was fun. There weren't that many people there, actually, for some reason. I don't know what happened. And then we took the bus down to Boston. We had an amazing premiere at the Ziegfeld in New York City. Red carpet and the whole treatment. And what happened at each of these showings was, after the film, the nurses in their scrubs would come to the stage and surround Michael and the cast members. And as Patty said, along the way, cast members would get on the bus. Donna and Larry Smith, Reggie Cervantes, and others. And that camaraderie, again, personified this movement we were building. We ended up going to Washington, D.C., and doing a premiere there of the movie, but also a meeting in one of the historic committee rooms of the House of Representatives with John Conyers. And guess who else spoke at that? You're not going to believe this. Speaking of Republicans, does anyone know this? Darrell Issa. Right, so Darrell Issa starting to say nice things about single payer. Truly surreal moment. We had this, of course, as Michael might mention, the Weinstein Company was the one, the company that released the film. And they weren't exactly totally on board with this whole nurse kind of, single payer, in your face thing. So we ended up having a slogan that we crashed every event we were invited to. And the best example of that was when the group in Washington, D.C. called Campaign for America's Future had a big event, and Hillary Clinton was the featured speaker. So again, we pulled up the bus there, and we get up to the stage, and they're like, "Who are you?" And we say, "We're here with Michael Moore." "Well, no, you're not. Where's Michael?" Well, that was the event that Michael couldn't come to. So we ended up crashing it ourselves with just the nurses. We had an extraordinary star-filled premiere in Los Angeles. I don't know exactly how we got the bus to Los Angeles, but somehow we did. And I know I wasn't on it across the country. But again, that was one of those Hollywood premieres with the whole coterie of stars, and we had an amazing thing too, because we had not yet formed the National Nurses United. So every place we're going, we work with the Massachusetts Nurses Association, we work with PASNAP, we worked with the nurses in Washington, D.C., we worked with the New York State Nurses Associations. And that's the other amazing thing about this film. At that crucial moment, we stitched together nurses from around the country who hadn't necessarily worked together before. And it was literally a foundational event for what became the National Nurses United in 2009. The historic significance of this movie and the experience of nurses who were a part of that premiere and a part of showing it all over the country has led now to the current movement for an improved Medicare for all. And guess what that movement is doing? That movement is doing a bus tour. Who knew? And that bus tour is a tour that Donna Smith is on. And that has been one of the extraordinary privileges for me personally, has been work with Donna Smith, because she now is on staff with the National Nurses United. And so we have a short video from this, about this bus tour that we're doing in California. And it's true, we thought maybe we'd be in a little different political circumstance after Thursday than we are today. But the fight continues. And the fight is again led by that extraordinary alliance of nurses and patients. So I just want to show you this film as we continue on our program.
We believe that healthcare is a human right, and we believe that everyone deserves access to comprehensive, affordable, and guaranteed healthcare.
Imagine a world where everyone receives guaranteed health care, where health care is a human right, not based on ability to pay, instead based on need. We have called ourselves the greatest country in the world, California, the greatest state in the country. But what does healthcare really look like in America?
12 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and 5 years ago, the cancer spread, so I'm now a stage 4 terminal cancer. I keep working just enough so that I can maintain our health insurance. My main concern is that the health care, and how are we gonna provide that for my family? We have really no savings left.
When you have to make the decision of, well, okay, do we pay the electric bill or do I get my medicine? It was easier to say, well, okay, maybe I'll end up paralyzed, but I can't take my MS med. I have good insurance, I can't say I don't. If I have to make that decision, I can imagine somebody who can't.
And in California?
And more patients are dying that shouldn't be in those hospital beds because they don't have access to basic medically necessary health care.
I heard it on TV. It's a health clinic that's free. I've been here since 10 in the evening, and I'm waiting to get a ticket to go in to get checked. I'm really concerned. I see children here. I see older people here that shouldn't be here in the cold, you know. It's really cold right now. I see people that haven't even been to the doctor in over 10 to 15 years. I haven't been to the doctors in over 4 years because I do not have health insurance. I'm self-employed. My business is very slow, and I cannot afford $1,500 a month in insurance. I am a cancer survivor, and I've had cancer in my uterus, and I would like to check and see how everything is inside me. It's very sad, but it's true. You know, this is reality. Yeah. This is reality. I mean, I'm scared, but what can I do, you know? There's no other programs out there for you to get checked.
I'm unemployed. I lost my job a little over 2 years ago, and I cannot afford health insurance. I used to work 8 years for Blue Cross, and I worked 2 years for Health Nets. For Blue Cross, I was senior outreach specialist. It is very ironic being out of here with no health insurance and having worked pretty much 10 years in the health insurance world, and yet I have no health insurance. Healthcare in America, big business, where if you have no money, you have no health care.
You know, the California Healthcare Foundation just last week issued a report, and it didn't come as a surprise, but it wasn't pretty either. It revealed that over the past 10 years, the cost of healthcare premiums have increased 153%.
We all know that something is wrong with healthcare. Many people thought that healthcare reform would fix the problems. But healthcare reform, also known as the Affordable Care Act, isn't really a solution to the healthcare crisis. It's estimated that 3 million people in California alone will still remain uninsured under this plan. Middle-income earners will be required to purchase private health insurance, leaving these consumers vulnerable to unrestricted, ever-escalating insurance costs. The ACA continues the current market-based system where your choice of medical providers is severely limited by insurance companies, allowing the same companies that helped create our healthcare crisis to dictate which providers we use and what medical care we receive. Compare that to Medicare for All, which frees up billions of dollars for healthcare, automatically covers everyone, allows you to choose your own medical provider, and everyone in, nobody out, guaranteed healthcare including vision and dental, even if you lose your job or fall on hard times. Medicare for All puts medical decisions back into the hands of nurses and doctors. Now, a broad campaign of people in California have the opportunity to set a standard of care for our nation by bringing students, small business people, seniors, faith-based communities, people of all backgrounds and ethnicities together, with nurses at the front lines of the healthcare struggle leading the way to expose healthcare injustice.
Everyone's been suffering in silence. We're going to open that up and we're going to say, tell us where it hurts. And that's what the nurses are starting to do, and they're telling the most profound stories, and they're going to be the agents, the voice for other people to come forward and to tell their stories.
Since our recession, I have seen patients that come in with worry and fear that if we find something during their procedure and we have to send it to the lab, whether or not it's going to be billed that day because their insurance ends tomorrow.
Much sicker kids, much sicker kids for things that could be managed easily if they were able to have health insurance to pay for a doctor's visit.
California is the ideal place to prove that single-payer healthcare has a place in our society. We know what's right. We know we have the power. Become part of the campaign for Medicare for All and win healthcare for everyone.
I challenge you to come up here, be part of the podium next year, and the year after, and every year until we have healthcare for all here in California and in America.
I don't know anything about the law, but I think everybody should have health care, like Canada. Yeah, Canada, everybody, millionaires or even they all have health care, and that's really fortunate. Maybe I'm going to move to Canada.
That's the promise of our movement. That is the promise that we're going to take this fight to every state in the country until we win it for everybody. And SiCKO has been an inspirational catalyst for where we are today, and we owe a huge debt of gratitude to the folks responsible for this extraordinary film. So thank you all for joining us here tonight, and we're so proud with the nurses to be a part of it.
Just wanted to give a shout out and an opportunity to get a few words from a couple of key local activists, Dr. Walter Sue and Francesca Labasso. Are you in the house? Okay.
All right, I can't see under this light. So, Walter, if you're out there, feel free to come join me. So the first thing I wanted to say is I know it's so hot, and I cannot thank everyone that's here enough for being here and for caring enough about this issue to be sweating profusely for it. So thank you. And I also want to say, anybody that needs water, like, please put up your hand, and we have people coming through right now that are going to be bringing water. So if you need a bottle, put up your hand, and they'll be handing some out. So thank you. And so, I mean, there's so many wonderful speakers here, and I'll be brief, which anyone here who knows me probably sounds like a lie, but I'm really working on it. I'm Francesca Lobasso. I'm the Director of Organizing for Healthcare Now, which is one of the organizations that is putting on this event, and this is a fundraiser for my organization because this is what we do. We're a movement-building organization to get healthcare for everyone and good quality healthcare, Medicare for all. So why am I here? Why is Francesca, me personally here? I was thinking about this morning, and it made me think of something about 3 years ago. My mom, my dad, my older sister, and I had all lost our jobs. We were all unemployed, and it was Christmas. And I had to watch my mom cry because she had to feel guilty that she spent the little money that my family had on the medications that her and my dad needed to stay healthy and groceries instead of being able to buy Christmas presents and, a lavish Christmas for us. Lavish. But, that was the guilt that she had. She had to feel bad that, she needed to get her medication. And that shouldn't happen. My mom shouldn't have to cry. No one's mom should have to cry. And that's why I'm here, because the system that we have is inhumane. And I know that the answer is single-payer healthcare, is a publicly financed system that takes everybody in and leaves nobody out. And so for me, what I say to all the politicians and the pundits and everyone else that tries to tell us that, Medicare for all would be great, but it's politically impossible. Well, you tell me it's politically impossible, we're gonna make it politically inevitable. So thank you.
Well, I know you don't want to hear me, you want to hear the people who are behind the scenes here. So I'll be very brief, but only simply to say that some people think that, we're done with healthcare reform because we've passed the Affordable Care Act and it's now been blessed by the Supreme Court. And what I'd like to point out to you is that after the November election, no matter who wins, the entire nation is going to be focused on deficit reduction. And the truth is that if you have 50 years that we've been trying an experiment of market-based medicine where we spend twice what the rest of the world spends per capita on healthcare, and we still leave 50 million Americans uninsured, that I have to say that this market-based medicine experiment has failed. And it is one of the reasons why we are $15 trillion in deficit, and the only way we can get out of this deficit and to bring back the economy and to bring back the jobs that America needs, frankly, is that we have to control healthcare costs. And the most humane and reasonable way to control healthcare costs and cover everybody is through a single-payer system. So I hope we all fight for that. And we do have a group in Philadelphia, Healthcare for All Philadelphia. We meet once a month. Those of you who are very interested, you can go to our website, phillyhealth.org, and join us and join in this movement, because I believe now is the time when we have to start saying we have got to fix this healthcare system the right way. Thank you.
Walter's been a great inspiration for me from the very moment I engaged in the work with Healthcare for All Pennsylvania. And Francesca's come into my classroom at University of the Arts and done a real bang-up job getting young people to see the power that they possess. And so she's a terrific organizer. So Walter and Francesca, thank you for all the great work you do. Next up, we're turning to the SiCKO portion of the presentation and the participants. The first up is a 9/11 responder, Reggie Cervantes. Reggie is now living in Southern California as a survivor, rescue worker. He worked as a volunteer and emergency med technician for 9 years, and on 9/11, she assisted at the World Trade Center in emergency rescue efforts and survived. Now suffering from a number of respiratory problems as well as post-traumatic or PTSD stress disorder due to time she spent at the site, she continues to be an advocate for sick and dying 9/11 responders. She is currently working on projects with the 9/11 widows, continuing to help to educate others about the effects of the devastating attacks. Reggie, please come up. Do you need to sit? Are you good? Want me to hold anything?
Hi, thank you all for coming. My purpose in coming here was twofold. It originally was the SiCKOs meeting up again and telling you the story that we're still sick after all these years. And then Vito Valenti, who was in the film, became sick again and was hospitalized. He is here at UPenn in intensive care, and he's dying. So we're not any better. 5 years ago, I was born again into a new family, some members which I have yet to meet, some are already gone, and I won't meet till later. Some are waiting at the door or the gate, waiting for the angels to open it. They are the casualties of the American healthcare system. You are my family. You are one of those brave crusaders seeking to improve our nation's healthcare. And I'm glad that you're related to me. I'm standing here barefoot because my legs are swollen again. For me, nothing has changed. I'm still sick. I have to fight United Healthcare sometimes on a weekly basis. And I stand here before you representing the 9/11 community. The widows who can't afford health care, the responders and the rescue workers who are sick and struggling, those who have died, and those of us who are still struggling to just make it on a day-to-day. I'm grateful to be here. I'm very thrilled to see my SiCKO family because it's the shot of energy we needed to, together with you, take that next step now that the Supreme Court have said that it is constitutional to have this system go forward, and to ask you to help me in fighting for the next step. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reggie. Next, I have the pleasure to introduce Donnell, Julie, and Tracy Jr. Let me just read brief bios on each of them and then have them each come out and say a few words. Donnell Keys is a California native who lost her 18-month-old daughter, Michelle, in 1993. Even though she had health insurance, when she brought Michelle to the emergency room, her daughter was refused treatment because the hospital wasn't in plan, quote unquote. Donnell's case went to the Supreme Court of California, where the court confirmed the facts of her case as portrayed in SiCKO. She won, but her damages were capped at a fraction of what the jury felt was fair due to a California law that limits compensation. She went on to testify before Congress about the grievous injustices that she witnessed in our healthcare system. Julie Pierce, widow of Tracy Pierce Sr., resides in Shawnee, Kansas. She believes health care is a basic human right and should not be profit-driven, saying instead, quote, no one should be denied treatment. No one should decide who lives or who dies, especially not insurance companies and plan administrators at your place of employment, unquote. Tracy Pierce Jr. lost his father to our broken and inhumane healthcare system because his parents' health insurance company denied his father the bone marrow transplant that could have saved his life. After SiCKO was released, Tracy Jr. and his mother had to endure industry execs' criticisms that a bone marrow transplant might not have been effective. Tracy Pierce Sr.'s doctors had argued strongly for the treatment, and in a letter to his insurance company had called it, quote, his only chance of survival, unquote. So please come on out, if you would, and say a few words, Donnell, Julie, and Tracy.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I just want to say, basically, nothing has changed for me. We still have people dying, being denied better, health care. So my daughter's death is not going to be in vain. I continue to educate and advocate for better health care. I spread the word to any and everyone that I can. So I say that we continue to fight and remember Michelle and all the other people that have went on because they refused to give good health care. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julie Pierce. My husband was Tracy Pierce. He died of cancer in 2006 at home after our insurance company and the plan administrators at the hospital I worked for denied every treatment the doctor prescribed. He was 36 years old. Since the movie, a lot has changed for me. My job was eliminated, lost the house to foreclosure, and I just keep fighting. SiCKO gave me a voice for my husband, because I don't want this to happen to anyone else. And the only difference between my family and yours is we happen to get caught by the media. Otherwise, we would be another no-name family going through a horrific tragedy. So my husband's death was not in vain, so I continue this fight because I believe doctors go to school to treat us, and someone in a 4x4 cubicle that has no education should not decide whether we live or die. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tracy Dion Pierce Jr. My father was Tracy Dion Pierce Sr. I don't agree with what's going on in America with this health care, and I mean, seeing you people here, I mean, it's surprising me now that our eyes are opening up to what the insurance companies are doing, and seeing you guys here to fight. It's opening America's eyes, and hopefully this is something we can beat and fix America. Thank you, guys.
I'd like to next introduce three people. Adrienne Campbell Montgomery, who's currently on the staff of Labor Notes in Detroit, Michigan. It's an excellent labor newspaper. She's a mother, wife, activist, and a 3-time cancer survivor, and currently living with MS, which is multiple sclerosis. She believes health care should be barrier-free, saying we need expanded and improved Medicare for all. Nobody should have to worry about going broke or filing for bankruptcy or having their credit damaged because they got sick, which is what happened to me. The profits need to be taken out of the equation. I would also like to introduce Donna and Larry Smith, who also, to me, exemplify what is also wrong with this system. Everybody sitting here thinks they have good health insurance, but until you get sick, you don't know what will happen to you. You don't know where the holes are, and if you get so sick that you can't keep your job, then you have nothing. It's worse than inhumane. It really should be criminal. Donna Smith is a Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Colorado College with a degree in history. She's been honored by the Associated Press managing editors with 15 regional awards. Since 2007, she has co-chaired the Progressive Democrats of America's National Healthcare Not Warfare campaign and works as a national single-payer healthcare advocate and organizer for the National Nurses United California Nurses Association. Since SiCKO was released, Donna has spoken about healthcare justice at more than 250 public events. She is still currently battling cancer and her insurance company. She hopes that in the near future she can concentrate on health and healing rather than being a cog in the corporate healthcare profit-making wheel. Her new book, Healthcare and Me, will be released in late 2012 or early 2013. Donna and her husband Larry now live near Washington, D.C. They have 6 children and 14 grandchildren. So I'd like to let Donna, Larry, and Adrian speak now.
Well, as you heard, I am a 3-time cancer survivor now. In the movie, you only knew about the one cancer, which was the cervical cancer, which I got when I was 22. The insurance company denied payment to the hospital, sticking me with the bill. Back in 2009, I was diagnosed with having ovarian cancer. I didn't have insurance. I had to go, well, I guess I didn't have to go, but I ended up speaking out at the first presidential healthcare forum in Dearborn, Michigan, where I had stated that I have ovarian cancer and no insurance, and I was scheduled to see a financial counselor to figure out how we're going to pay for it. Luckily, one of the hospitals that were there at the forum stepped up and actually took care of me. But it shouldn't have to be that way. It should not have had to come down to me crying for help in front of the press to get treated. Then last year, I got diagnosed with having uterine cancer. I was only 28, and I had a partial hysterectomy at the age of 29, just after I turned 29. I had to battle the insurance company. I battled the insurance company because the original treatment they wanted me to have was a surgery to just remove the tumors that were on my uterus. My doctor said, no, I want to do a partial hysterectomy. Insurance company said, no, you have to try option 1, 2, and 3 first before you do that. So once again, I was battling the insurance companies. And that first surgery that I had, I came close to flatlining on the operating table. There was so much blood loss that the doctor had said he'd never seen this happen before. Coming out of that surgery and hearing those words that you almost flatlined, it's been very hard for me ever since, just because I just turned 30. I've never expected to battle cancer, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And so my message to you out there, it doesn't matter what age you are. You can get sick. You can go without insurance and think you're fine at a young age. You're not. Cancer knows illness. It doesn't. My cousin recently passed away last fall. She's the same age as me, and she had a blood clot in her lung that went undetected, and that's what took her. It doesn't matter what age you are. and how healthy you think you are, it can happen. And when it does, you can be left financially ruined just like me. Thank you.
Hello, SiCKO family. Hi, everybody. I can't see you. Patty, it's something tells me it was just like this last time we came through for SiCKO, wasn't it? Sticky, hot. Whew. And I didn't mean to wear my Cuba shorts tonight. These are the shorts I actually had on in the film when we went to Cuba, but we didn't have time to change clothes, so I apologize, Philadelphia. Thank you all for hosting us here in Philadelphia for this 5th reunion. It's pretty special for all of us. The video that Michael Lighty showed you a minute ago is being shown currently, as he told you, on a bus tour right now in California that I'm on with some wonderful nurses, and we're hearing these incredible stories like Adrian's, unfortunately, and like lots of other people all over California and all over the country who are suffering and really hurting in this system. And the main reason we're here tonight was the title of the event, that we're still SiCKO after all these years, that it's not that our lives have not gone on. Many of you have already heard me say that none of us were paid to be in Michael's film. This is a documentary. And we were not actors and actresses. We were really telling our stories. And unfortunately, the people you see before you represent millions and millions of other people all over the country. And how did you get out of standing up and speaking?
People fired me a long time.
I do admit, when he's in the audience and his hand goes up, my heart like skips a beat, especially if my boss is in the same audience. It's like, I have no clue what's going to come out of Larry's mouth when he's... You want to hear from Larry? Oh, should we hear from Larry? I always tell people I'm the blessed one from SiCKO. I went to work for 180,000, the most wonderful activists for healthcare justice in the country and for a single standard of high quality care for everyone under a Medicare for all model. So I'm lucky. And this guy stands behind me and sees me off on so many trips in so many ways, and I love him a lot, but I don't tell him enough. So here.
Thank you. Yes, we've already decided that my vocation or avocation now is playing golf or waiting for Donna to get home on her trips. As far as me doing public speaking, I was not kidding you. We were in front of a group of college students in Colorado. And Donna didn't like what I was telling them because I wanted them to get more involved, and after the meeting she fired me. So that ended my public speaking. Thank you.
That's my guy. Read my blogs on michaelmoore.com and Common Dreams and on the nationalnursesunited.org website, and I know you're going to want to host a book event when it comes out, right?
Thank you to all of you for sharing your stories and for putting a human face on what we all see and we all know is out there. And I think we all agree that it's a good thing that the Supreme Court said everybody should have health care. However, it's pretty clear that there's a lot more work to do, because I think that most of you could go through the same thing again, with the exception of being able to keep your children up till age 26 on your health insurance and some caps on the worst excesses of those insurance companies. There's still a lot of problems. There's nothing that says that it's going to be affordable. There's no cap on the price. People can't afford to pay $25,000 a year for health insurance. It's not going to happen. Chuck says that's proof that pretty soon we'll get to single payer. I hope he's right. My next person to introduce is Lee Einer, who's a community organizer living in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and working for profound systemic change. Lee believes that the U.S. healthcare system is broken, not because it is managed differently than we manage everything else, but because it is managed in exactly the same way we manage everything else. Where is Lee? Hey, Lee.
Oh, those lights are bright. Right to my mouth. It's hot too, isn't it? Hope everybody's doing all right tonight. You know, I'm here and I'm in SiCKO for somewhat different reasons than all of my friends here were in SiCKO. They all were mistreated and abused by our health insurance system. I worked for the system that did that abuse for close to 20 years, and I saw probably every dirty trick in the book, and it sickened me. So it was really my pleasure and my atonement to participate in SiCKO and tell the public the kinds of things that are done to innocent people and to people who are at their most vulnerable in this country. You know, it was my hope that we'd bring into focus the inhumanity. What? Okay, I thought maybe Big Pharma or somebody was cutting the mic. Thank you. But since SiCKO came out, something interesting has happened, you know, with the Occupy movement and all of the other things that have gotten into the news. We find out that, you know, our healthcare system is terribly messed up, and our food supply system is awful. We're being poisoned with the, you know, complicity of the USDA, and Monsanto is trying to mutate our food. And we're getting fracked. I know all of you in Pennsylvania are upset about that. We're upset about it in New Mexico as well. Okay? And something is a bigger picture since SiCKO is coming into focus now. And that bigger picture is exactly what Patty said. That bigger picture is that our healthcare system is not messed up because it's a significant deviation from everything else we do. It's a problem because it's exactly the same as everything else we're doing. Is everybody feeling me? What that points to is that when we look at healthcare, we are looking not at the disease, we are looking at one of the many symptoms. What we have is not a healthcare problem in this country. What we have is a democracy problem. All right? Yeah. What we have is a corporate hegemony problem. And it's not getting fixed in Washington, D.C. either. Okay? So I'm here tonight to ask you and encourage you to tackle the big problem, to tackle the democracy problem, to tackle the corporate hegemony problem, because until we fix that, we're not going to fix anything. Wouldn't it be uncanny if we could somehow maintain the status quo of profit over people and somehow have a good healthcare system? I think that would be miraculous, but I have my doubts that it's going to happen. Okay? I'm not saying that to be a bummer. I'm saying that to be a realist. We have a bigger fight here. What I encourage us all to do is to come together and to stand up. You know, healthcare may not be the problem, but it is an issue around which we can come together and fight. And it is that coming together which is the important part, which is the democracy that we need, okay? So that is what I'm asking to do. Whatever your fight is, if it's health insurance, absolutely fight those people. They're bastards. If it's fracking, get the people together in your community and fight the fracking. But the important thing is the coming together and the fight, because if we don't come together, we're going to continue in this path, and we cannot afford to. All of my friends here, you know, they have been abused and victimized by the healthcare system in this country. And they've given us a very good picture of what that looks like. They've done a very good job of articulating the pain. But there's another picture to be painted. That's the picture that you see if somebody actually pulls the curtain aside and you get to see how dirty it is inside the insurance companies, what it looks like when you're one of those people who perhaps every day says no to claims that you know deep down should be paid. What it means, what it looks like to act in bad faith day after day because that's your job and it's what you get paid to do. It sucks. Excuse me for using that language, but it purely sucks. And if you're a decent person, eventually you have to say no and you have to speak up. And our next speaker is a man who did that. He was vice president of corporate communications for Cigna, and in fact, Cigna sent him to watch SiCKO so that he could design and engineer the corporate spin in the media that would neutralize the message of SiCKO. And you know what? He got a little sicko with that himself. He couldn't take it. I salute him for that. He turned whistleblower. Ladies and gentlemen, Wendell Potter.
Thank you so much, Lee. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's so kind of you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, thank you, Lee. If someone had told me when I got on a plane to fly from Philadelphia in June of 2007, all the way across the country to Sacramento, California, to see the first screening of SiCKO in the United States, if they'd told me that 5 years later I would be on stage with people who were in the movie and with Michael Moore, I would have said, please give me what you're smoking. It just was, it would have been almost unbelievable. Well, it would have been unbelievable for me. I worked just a few blocks from here, and you probably have seen it, those of you who are not from Philadelphia. Two of the tallest towers in Philadelphia are Liberty Place. I worked in Liberty Place for many, many years, and as Lee said, it was part of my responsibility to figure out how to make sure that people didn't really believe what SiCKO was all about, and to turn against Michael Moore, to think that what he was doing was not true. I'll tell you that when I saw that film, though, it was the beginning of that trip, I guess, that airplane ride I took was the beginning of a journey for me that still continues. Because when I saw that movie, I realized how careful Michael Moore had been to make sure he got it right, and that the stories were true. And I recognized that a lot of the stories that were portrayed in the movie were similar to a lot of the stories that I had heard about or been involved with in one way or another during my 20-year career in the health insurance industry. And it began to change me. It began to change the way I thought about what I was doing for a living. And it was the beginning of a crisis of conscience for me that ultimately led me to leave my job. Not immediately. I didn't know exactly what to do. In fact, I was charged with the responsibility when I got back to Philadelphia of trying to figure out how to discredit the movie and Michael Moore. And I had to see the movie a second time. I not only went to Sacramento, but a few days later went to the official screening in Bel Air, Michigan, where Michael lives, and took my son with me this time. I had been so impressed with the movie, I wanted someone in my family to see it as well. Although I had to do this quietly, I couldn't tell the people I worked for that I was taking Alex with me. But I wanted him to see it, and I wanted to have a conversation with him after the movie. So I'm really glad that he was able to do that, and also that I was able to meet Michael Moore that day, although I didn't tell him who I was. Someone who was there took a picture of Alex and me with Michael Moore, which has been a great reminder of that day. The next month, I flew to Tennessee to visit my family from Tennessee, and I read something in the newspaper about something called a healthcare expedition that was being held pretty close to where I grew up. And out of curiosity, I just borrowed my dad's car the next day and drove to this event, that the newspaper story said this was the 8th year it was being held in the Wise County, Virginia Fairgrounds. People were expected to drive from 500 and 600 miles away from Ohio and South Carolina and Georgia, and I was curious. I went there out of curiosity, and I saw something I would never have expected to see in the United States of America. I saw people that I could have grown up with who were standing in long lines, soaking wet, waiting to get care that's being provided by doctors and nurses who were donating their time, volunteering, to treat them in barns and animal stalls. And that was, I guess, the second leg of this journey I was on that led me to ultimately quitting my job. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I realized that the job that I had was in some way making it necessary for people I could have grown up with to have to resort to get care in barns and animal stalls. Back in Philadelphia, a couple weeks later, I was flying on the corporate jet with my CEO from here to Connecticut. And I'd been on that jet many times. But for the first time, I was seeing really what was going on with new eyes. And I saw that he and I were being served our lunch on gold-plated china. We were given gold-plated flatware to eat it with. And I knew that just he and I were flying to Connecticut, and it was costing $5,000 an hour just for jet fuel alone. And then I thought about those people in Wise County and the people who were in SiCKO, and I realized that I could not keep doing what I was doing. I might, though, still be there had it not been for a young girl in Los Angeles, Natalie Sarkeesian, who had leukemia, and her doctors said that they thought that she would have a 65% chance of surviving, of living to be an adult if she had a liver transplant. She was insured by the company I worked for. Medical director 2,500 miles away in Pittsburgh said he didn't agree with her doctors. He didn't think that the procedure was appropriate for Natalie. The California Nurses Association and other friends of the family really rallied. They created such a media frenzy around this case that my life was hell, because I was a guy who was having to answer the phone over at Liberty Place from reporters who were calling to find out why Cigna was not approving this liver transplant. It was such a media frenzy that just a few days later, Cigna agreed to cover it. So much time had passed since the doctors originally asked for approval or for coverage of that transplant that Natalie got sicker and sicker. And just hours after Cigna announced that it would cover the transplant, Natalie died at 17. And so did any desire that I had to keep working for the insurance industry. And pretty soon after that, I turned in my notice. And eventually, I decided that my crisis of conscience was so severe, so significant, that I had to do something about what I knew, what I knew about this insurance industry, and to become an advocate for change. And I will tell you that people on this stage inspired me in many ways to do that. So thank you very much for what you've done, for your lives, for your courage, and for giving me the courage in many ways to do what I finally decided to do. I'm honored to be with you. Thank you very much. Thank you all who are also. Thank you for those of you who are also advocating for comprehensive change. We're on our way. Thank you very much.
So do you want to grab a seat down here? Great. So we're at that portion where you folks are going to be introducing Michael. So do you want to just pass the mic, or how do you want to do that?
Would you all stand with me, SiCKOs, please? I don't think any of us knew when we came together on the movie screen 5 years ago that we'd also become such a close family in the background, but we certainly did. And this afternoon, while some people were patiently waiting for us at a reception, we were honored to spend a couple of hours with Michael Moore in a nice, quiet setting where we were able to share with him some of what the film meant to us in our lives. So we're not going to go back over all of that. Suffice to say that we stand before you, many of us, only because the film was made and because Michael chose us for that film. And we're so honored and so thrilled that he decided he would come when we said we were going to do the 5th anniversary. It is our greatest desire that we don't have to have a 6th anniversary or a 7th anniversary, or certainly a 10th anniversary, though I think we'll always love one another and be friends. But we want to bring Michael Moore up, and we have one small gift for him from one of the SiCKOs. So if Michael, if you would come up, Academy Award-winning documentarian Michael Moore.
Since 2 years ago, I took a job with Labor Notes in Detroit, and I thought this was appropriate since we're known as the Troublemakers Union, and Michael's latest book, his book is Here Comes Trouble. I wanted to make Michael an honorary member of the Troublemakers Union, the global local.
I think he leads it somehow.
Thank you.
And do you want the mic on a stand, or would you want to hold the photo up? Do any of the other SiCKOs want to say anything, or Reggie would like to say something? Hang on just a minute.
I forgot to acknowledge that Billy Mayer and John Graham are here with us in spirit. Billy's actually here. I don't think he was feeling so great today. And the 9/11 community is very grateful to Michael Moore for bringing it forth, what was happening to us, and helping convince the people in Washington to pass the Zadroga bill so we could get help. Thank you.
Well, thank you, all of you, for standing and greeting me. Everybody up here means a lot to me, and I was reminding them at lunch just how difficult it was to make this film. I had sent put a thing out on the internet when I decided to make this movie, asking Americans to send me their healthcare horror stories. And within a couple of weeks, I had over 25,000 emails, long emails of people telling me their story. We weren't prepared for that, my crew and I. But I said to them, we have to read every single one of these. They're personal, and people are suffering. People are dying in their families, and we have to do this. So we put off shooting, or beginning of shooting, and it took us 2 months for 15 of us to go through all 25,000 letters and contact many of them, trying to get more information, and then whittling it down. And this was the hardest part because there were so many people that needed our help, people that we knew wouldn't be alive in a few months. And we had to choose who we were going to go and interview and put in the film. So that was difficult just on its own. I think that the fact that all of you gave your time and you told these stories and shared them with people, because I saw the movie in so many theaters around the country, your stories struck a real serious nerve, people, because they knew that they weren't alone, that they or people they know, people in their families, people in their neighborhoods, people at work were going through the same sort of thing. And, you know, healthcare was a taboo topic after Hillary was sent to the timeout room. You know, she really tried to focus this country on this problem. And I guess people can, you know, can debate how she went about it or what their policies were that they were proposing or whatever, but nonetheless, nobody was taking this on, and she was willing to do it. And then they shut her down and villainized her, and that was that. And it was a message to all other politicians: do not bring this subject up. And they didn't, did they? From '93 on, there were no bills, there was no movement, there was nothing to, it just didn't exist. A couple of years before SiCKO came out, there was another issue that also had disappeared from the nation's agenda, and it was called global warming. A lot of talk about it back in the 90s, and then it sort of, once Bush became president, it disappeared. Nobody was talking about it anymore. Al Gore made a documentary, and suddenly it was put back on the national agenda, the discussion table, and it hasn't left. Everybody knows about it. Oh, thank you. By the way, the air conditioning in here? No, I know there isn't any air conditioning in here, but I do want to tell people of Philadelphia that Boston has it now, air conditioning, and New York has just got it, and it will be coming here to Philadelphia soon, as it often does after New York and Boston. Whenever I say we're going to Philadelphia for the day, people always go, why? No, I said, don't say that. They have a bad enough self-image problem, you know. Come to Philadelphia, almost New York. Yeah, I know, it's not right, is it? No. We got War Horse down here at the theater, right? It's a big play in New York a few years ago. I just met Wendell Potter for the first time a little bit ago, and we didn't really have a chance to sit down and talk. So I hope we get to do that. Or actually, will you come and have lunch with me, you know, somewhere in New York, or I'll come back to Philadelphia when Mamma Mia makes it here, or whatever. Just kidding. You know, if you grew up in the era that I grew up in, Philly and Detroit, right? We were 4 and 5, right? New York, LA, Chicago, or New York, Chicago, LA, Philly, Detroit, right? 5 biggest cities in the country. But it's very powerful. I've heard him speak. I've heard him tell the story on TV. I've read his book. The fact that a documentary could help to encourage a top executive at one of America's largest corporations to resign, I just thought, how come Fahrenheit 9/11 couldn't do that? The chief executive of the country. I mean, what did I learn between Fahrenheit and SiCKO that I couldn't figure out where Bush would just watch this film and go, I can't sit here anymore. I have to leave the White House. This is disgraceful. Nobody told me we were invading a country that didn't have weapons of mass destruction. We have to leave. But it happened with SiCKO. And it only took 20 years from Roger and me before people figured out that General Motors was one messed up corporation. And but my point is I think that I really believe in the power of film and movies. And because it's such a mass medium in terms of the, you know, it's not a niche art form. Most people love the movies. And And so I started thinking some time ago about how could I make movies that not only were entertaining, because they're movies, they should be entertaining. If it's just a sermon, I should go back to the seminary. If I just want to give you a political speech, I should run for office. But I wanted to make movies. So that means I'm asking you to give up your Friday night, come, pay an outrageous amount of money for these tickets and $10 of popcorn, and sit there with your date, not knowing what's going to happen after the movie. So you're already anxious for the 2 hours that you're sitting in the theater. And that's true even if you're married. And then go home. So I honor the fact that the movies are there for us to be entertained. And entertained doesn't just mean a jolly old time. It can mean that it's funny. It can also mean that it's very sad. Or it can make you angry. Or it can move you. It can make you think. It can make you feel responsible, that maybe I should do something when I leave this theater. So I start that way. I think that way, with all of my films. And but we never know what's going to happen, and we didn't know. We started out when we were going to make this movie. We were going to make a movie about the 50 million Americans that don't have health insurance, because that seemed to be right. That's like one of the worst blotches on our public, national dignity, that we allow 50 million people to go uncovered. But then I said to the crew, I said, you know what? We should be wasting our time making a movie about the uninsured. First of all, who that we would care about at least, I'm not talking about the 20% of the crazies that are over way on the right, but who that we would care about needs to be told that it's wrong to allow 50 million Americans to go uninsured, right? Why would you ask people to give up 2 hours of their time to come and be told something they already know? I said, I think maybe the story from what we've been reading and what we've been reading in these letters, see, we thought we'd get these letters from people that didn't have health insurance. 90% of the letters were people that had a health insurance card. That was what was just amazing to us. And I said, we have to change the entire focus of this film. And this happens to me a lot with these movies. It happened during Bowling for Columbine. Let's make a gun control movie. And so if we just controlled the guns, we'd have less murders in this country, less gun violence. And then we went to Canada, and they have this thing called Statistics Canada in Ottawa. And in our research, we discovered that Canadians have more guns in their homes per capita than we do. You realize that? 7 out of every 10 Canadian homes has a gun in it. They're big hunters. That's why they mostly have guns. Actually, there's more hunters than hockey players in Canada. So they have all these guns laying around, and it's a nation of 34 million people, and they have 100, 200, bad year, maybe 300 murders a year. And we have 15,000 murders and 15,000 suicides. Oh, why? I said, I think that's the movie. I think maybe we need to find out what is it about other countries that, in Switzerland, there has to be a gun in every home because there's no standing army, right? So every male head of household, according to their law, they have to have a gun in the house. The Swiss murder rate, anybody ever walk down the street at 10 o'clock at night in Switzerland? Nothing much to worry about there. They don't kill each other. They don't kill each other in Switzerland. They don't kill each other in Canada. We kill each other. Why do we do that? What is it about us? And I said to the crew, I said, you know what? The NRA, Charlton Heston, they're right. When they say guns don't kill people, people kill people, they're right. We should just admit it. They're right. Except maybe we should alter it so that it's a bit more honest. This movie should say, guns don't kill people, Americans kill people. Because that's the truth. So what is it about us? Because the Canadians aren't better than us, right? Is there a Canadian anywhere in here? Is it right there? Well, you're not better than us, are you? What'd she say? No, oh, then she's not Canadian then. Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, no, I'm good. The only time to worry is I will start to tip, and then try to, get out of the way. No, Canadians do not feel that they're better than us. They're very nice people, very polite. They watch the same violent TV shows. Their kids play the same violent video games. They in Britain have a worse divorce rate than we do. Broken homes. So what is it? Because we really do share, we're so close to each other, we share the same culture. We share the same way of structuring ourselves and behaving. What is it about us where we have to have so many guns, 250 million guns in our homes, and they don't? They have the guns in the home, but they don't use them on each other. That's the question I wanted to answer in the film, or try to answer, or at least pose, so that the audience can think about answering it. I think that what's different about us from most of the other countries, especially the Western industrialized countries, and it's the problem that we point out in SiCKO as we go to these other countries and we show how they take care of each other. Even though in France and England and Germany and these other countries, they have liberals, they have conservatives, left-wingers, right-wingers. Here's what they don't have very much of. Me, myself, and I. Me, 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 me. Me, me, me. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You're not my problem. I got mine, you got yours. You can't have mine. Stay off the lawn. Not so elsewhere. Not so. I'm sorry to say this. If you've traveled, you know what I'm talking about. Here, it's about me. There, it's about we. The Canadians have this very odd idea that if one of them gets sick, if one of them falls between the cracks, they kind of all fall between the cracks. The society collectively starts to crumble just a little bit. And if they allow 10,000 to fall through the cracks, it crumbles a lot. And if they would allow per capita, say the 50 million that we allow to fall between the cracks, well, what would their country look like? First of all, their politicians would need to engage in wars to distract the population from the real problems that are going on and tell them that the enemy is elsewhere. The enemy is over there. No, he's over there. Is there really a worse form of domestic terrorism than what has happened to the people here on this stage and the millions of other Americans who've been abused by our health insurance system? The terrorism that goes on in people's lives, because it is terrorism. If you feel like you're going to die, if you're being threatened that you might lose your life, that's exactly what's happening when, as Wendell said, a doctor 2,500 miles away is determining whether or not you need that liver operation. Who the hell are you? You know what that's called? It's called a death panel. A death panel of one. That's the system we have. We have a system of death panels. Individual death panels populated by doctors who should be ashamed, absolutely ashamed, to work in that kind of position. We interviewed one of them in SiCKO, Dr. Linda Pino, who worked for Humana. And like Wendell, she couldn't take it anymore. But she literally was sitting there at a desk deciding who was going to live and who was going to die. And she couldn't take it anymore. You would think there'd be more than just her or the one or two others that have acted out of conscience, but there hasn't been. Me, 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 me. You paid a great salary there at Humana and Cigna. Me, 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 me. It's just disgusting. And it's amazing that we put up with it. It is amazing that the American public puts up with this. I swear to God, anthropologists, when they dig us up, they are not going to be able to figure us out. They are not going to understand why we did not go out into the street with torches and just raise holy hell. That we would sit by and watch family members die because an insurance company said, no, they can't have that operation. And they die, and we're sad. Oh. And then we hear about a neighbor, and then we hear about somebody at work. It's not like this is in the closet somewhere, right? This is affecting everyone's lives. Everybody has a story to tell. Either it's their story or somebody they know. many of us on the stage and the people here at Healthcare Now and the other groups really had hoped that President Obama would have pushed a single-payer program through when he had both houses of Congress. And we're very disappointed in the watered-down version that did get passed. It did do a number of really good things. Taking away the lifetime cap, allowing young people to be on their parents' insurance till they're 26, and getting rid of the pre-existing conditions. Those are huge things. And putting a cap on the insurance companies, the amount of profit and administrative costs that they can make. And as Lee will tell you, though, believe me, they're already figuring out how to game that. But as Wendell might probably tell you, is that secretly, privately, these insurance companies right now are questioning, just especially the big companies that do all our other kinds of insurance, house, car, life. Why are we in the health business anymore? This is something that clearly the momentum is not on our side. And so there is, I think, talk, from what I've heard, of really starting to question whether or not this should continue. Now, if they decide that cap, they're not going to make as big a profits as they wanted to, because some of them are making 20, 30% profits. And they decide that's it, the private insurance business just starts to crumble. We better be ready. We better be ready so that our members of Congress and whoever's in the White House creates the health care system that we need to have for the rest of our lives, our children's lives, our grandchildren's lives. That has to happen. And we have to be ready for that. We can't just wait and hope that it's going to happen. You can't just depend on President Obama. We kind of got his MO now, don't we? Nice guy, right? Good heart, good dad. He knows who he is, and he knows the country he grew up in. But he also, if you read his books, you'll understand why he's so hell-bent on wanting people who hate him to like him. I gave that up a couple years ago. I would go on Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity and try to get them to like me, listen to what I'm saying. Last time I was on with Hannity, I can't help myself. I said, Sean, I just can't believe you're Irish Catholic, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right, so me too, Irish Catholic. Yeah. I said, well, this is Monday. It's a Monday night. I said, well, you went to church yesterday, didn't you? Oh, yeah. Well, what was the gospel about yesterday? Can you tell me? I know. How about the sermon? What did the priest talk about? And I felt so bad for him. I had to let him off. Okay, hey, I know. He goes, well, I went Saturday night. It's 2 days ago. Okay. Where was I? Oh, hating people and liking people. President Obama. So he spent the first 3 years holding out the olive branch and getting it smacked out of his hand. And every time they smacked it out of his hand, he held it out again. I mean, really, I guess that is some definition of Christianity, right? Turn the other cheek, then turn the other cheek, no, then turn the other cheek, then turn the... No, wait a minute, I don't think it does say that. It just says to turn the cheek once. Right? Am I right? It says turn the cheek, and then they smack you again. Jesus didn't say, just keep turning that cheek and let them keep smacking you. No, I don't think so. But that's what he did for 3 years, and then this last year, then he started talking tough again. And it's like, dude, where have you been? Yeah, well, he thinks he's going to re-inspire the people that are still going to vote for him, but are mightily depressed at how little has happened in these 4 years. People are going to vote for him. We're all going to vote for him. People here, most of you assume most people are going to vote for him. Most people I know are going to vote for him. You know, New York's going to vote for him. Michigan will vote for him. Don't worry, Michigan, even though Romney grew up there, they're going to vote for Obama. But that's not what's going to win it. People are going to vote for him, but they're not going to bring 10 people with them to the polls. They're going to vote for them, but they're not going to spend the last 4 Saturdays at the phone bank making calls. Only those who are just scared shitless of Romney will do that. So now we're operating out of fear, not hope, which is why that worked so well, especially with young people. The thing with young people and why they stayed away from the polls in the 2010 election, you know, we had a record turnout in 08 with young people, 18 to 29. The only age demographic, by the way, that voted for President Obama. Do you realize that? Obama lost every other age demographic to McCain. He only won 18 to 29-year-olds. He lost the white vote. He lost the white vote. I think there's still a lot of white people in this country. He lost the white vote but became president of the United States. Because young people, and especially African Americans and Hispanics, were inspired to go to the polls. And young people really got out there, of all races, and women. So the Republican Party now is the party of angry white guys. And they're really pissed off this week, aren't they? Because one of their angry white guys, who's the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, turned on them. That's... You have any idea how they're feeling tonight? I mean, I was saying earlier, honest to God, I don't think a lot of them have gotten out of bed since Thursday. They are so depressed. I mean, just imagine, like, if a ruling came down and Ruth Ginsburg, you know, voted to, you know, all schools had to be parochial schools, or just some weird thing like that. We go, what happened to her? Right? We would be totally freaked out, wouldn't we? That's how they're feeling right now. So as maybe disappointed as we are in the bill that did get passed, we should be feeling really good this week about this victory that took place on Thursday, the victory of stopping the momentum of the right wing, and with one of their own in the driver's seat, putting the brakes on to them. That is a historic moment. And they can't turn it back, right? Once the genie's out of the bottle, right? Once you allow gay people to get married, and after a couple of years of it in 7 states, heterosexual marriages haven't suddenly crumbled all across the state because of the intense threat of the gay marriage. People start to go, oh, I guess it doesn't really affect me. Not so bad. Yeah, hell, let them get married. We don't want them to leave the neighborhood anyways. They got the nicest lawn. Stay off the lawn. Sorry. Americans are good people. We are. Our fellow Americans have a conscience. They have a good heart. The problem is that we're slow learners. That is really our problem. If you tell us there's weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, we will believe you, just because you said so. And you are in charge, dear leader. But if we find out a couple years later that you lied to us, and there weren't, and 4,000 of our kids are dead as a result of it, what did the American public do from 03 to 06? Flipped. 65% turned against the war and voted in a Democratic Congress and Senate in 2006. That's the good news about our fellow Americans. They will not stick to a position once they have been shown that it is wrong or they've been lied to. The majority of Americans. Again, I'm not talking about the 20 or 30% over here that, you know, are hopeless. Or the way I put it this week after the Supreme Court decision, I said, look, everybody keeps talking about this great divide we have in our country between red, blue states, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. That is not the divide that exists. Quit talking about it in that way. The divide is between those who believe that Adam and Eve rode on dinosaurs 6,000 years ago and the rest of us. That's the divide between those who have been fed a lot of funny information and phony facts and fear, and those who will not allow themselves to be manipulated by fear, who believe in science, and who trust facts instead of fantasy. That's the real difference in the country. And we're hoping like hell that that second group perseveres, right? Because you really... You haven't practiced saying President Romney yet, have you? Just try it out. President Romney. It's like bad karma, isn't it? Yeah. Can I give you my hat? So, I don't want to spend too much more time on the election, but I just want to say that my hope is that President Obama does the things he needs to do in the remaining months to inspire people. And he started to do that with the new immigration rule. He did it by coming out for gay marriage. And, you know, I hope every other group that needs something is lining up right now, because he's very much in the mood to get behind it. Well, it's very hot in here, so I don't want to keep all of you here, and I see that you're fanning yourselves and wishing that you lived in New Jersey, which also just got air conditioning. But I can take a couple questions if you'd like to ask a couple questions. And we're going to do that? Okay, all right. So I should just wrap up then, right? All right. That's what I'll do. No, I'm good. Do I look okay? I'm like okay, right? Anybody going on walks with me on my Twitter? Anybody with me on that? Anybody know about that? Nobody? I've been doing this. You don't? Okay, well, okay, I won't bother people. People think Twitter's goofy and ridiculous, but it isn't. So. Oh, okay. Well, on Twitter. I was on Twitter one night about 3 months ago. It was 3 weeks after the Trayvon Martin killing in Florida, where I was thinking about how, gee, I guess not all Americans can go out for a walk when they want to, safely. So I saw the statistic in the New York Times that day. It said that there are more Americans on antidepressants than go to the movies. More Americans take antidepressants than go to the movies. And so I repeated that fact, and then I just wrote, maybe that's the problem. You know, if there are better movies and more, I got out more to go see good movies, maybe we'd feel better. Oh my God, it just a whole firestorm of debate started between the pro-antidepressant people, the anti-antidepressant people, the people who think the movies suck and they don't want to go to any of them, the people who are against $10 popcorn. It just went on and on like this for about an hour. I'm just sitting there reading it. And then finally some guy tweets in and he says, look, everybody calm down. What I found is sometimes it's just good to go for a brisk walk. I read that, I just laughed and I thought, yeah, that's not a bad idea. So I tweeted back, I said to everybody, I got there's like 1 million followers on my Twitter thing. So I said, no, I think that guy has got a good idea. I'm going to put my shoes on and go for a half-hour walk. Anybody want to join me? Because I'm not going to tell them where I am, but I meant virtually join me. I came back in a half hour, and there were hundreds of people had tweeted in that they had just got back from their walk too. I was like, wow. So the next day I thought, well, maybe I should try one more time. So the next day I did it, and then I was like 1,000 people that are doing it. And I was like, oh shit, I can't stop this now. So I've been walking for 3 months. I'm down 2 pant sizes. Only another 20 to go. No, that's not true. But I started to get really amazed at how great it felt to go for a walk. Not a walk because I had to go someplace, got to go to work, got to go to pick this up, but just to go for a walk. Kind of cleared my head and felt good. And we can't tell now because it's hard to tell on Twitter, but the best estimate they have is like tens of thousands of people around the world. Every day I say that, okay, today's walk is at 7 p.m. Go out with me on my walk. And if they can't go at 7 p.m., they'll go in another time. And then they take pictures of their walk and they send it to me and they post it on the internet. So now there's like 10,000 people. Hopefully, I'm hoping mostly people that are like me doing this. The healthy people who've been writing in are saying, don't walk, you have to run. Or I say, I walk 2 miles. Don't walk 2 miles, walk 4 miles. I'm going, oh man, no wonder, we're 2/3 of the country's overweight. Just don't listen to any of this stuff. Don't listen to any of the exercise stuff. Don't listen to any of the diet stuff. Don't listen to any of that stuff. And so I've refused on my Twitter every day. I never bring up the fact that I'm doing this for health or weight or anything. And in fact, people will write in and go, how much weight have you lost so far? And then I'll just write back publicly, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. If you don't think about it that way, if you just think about it might make you happy, then you might take better care of yourself if you're happy, right? So that's my theory, at least. I have no science to back that up, but other than my own, what I'm feeling. So, all right, I don't know how I got into that. Where was I? Oh, Trayvon Martin. Yeah, but that's why. Anyway, so we walk every night, and you're welcome to join me. Get on Twitter if you're not already there. And if you follow me, it's at mmflint, and you'll get walking updates, and you'll send in your updates. And because really we all need to be around here for a lot longer if we're going to get things fixed, right? So join me in that. All right, I'm done, and we'll do the question and answer here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming out on this night. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
That was a lot of fun, Michael. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We're going to do a couple things here, get the wheels rolling as far as fundraising pitch. But in the moment, we're going to get pencils passed around. Is that right? Because people should have cards in you've already done it. That's okay. So for those of you who've done questions, you can maybe pass them down the middle, and then we can scoop them up. So maybe if you can put them in the aisle, it'd be fine. We can scoop those up, or somebody can just come and grab them. That'd be fine. For folks who need a pencil to write a question, pencils are going to be going around now, as I understand it. Correct? And we are going to have Katie, right? And Mark come forward. Katie Robbins, former Director of Healthcare Now, and Mark Dudzig, Labor for Single Payer. And I'll hand over the mic to you folks, and we're going to get questions rolling.
That's right. So you can pass your questions up. It wouldn't be right if we let you go on this hot, steamy summer night without reminding you about the importance of organizations like Healthcare Now. We were founded in 2004 in the middle of the Bush years, actually, to fight for single-payer healthcare, and we have created tremendous momentum and education and awareness around this issue, and we know we have to keep fighting. The people here in this room, the people on this stage, have been working so hard because we believe healthcare is a human right. We're also here to correct an epidemic that is sweeping the nation. You may have heard of it. People have PIISD, PIST, private insurance-induced stress disorder. And we know the cure for that is an improved Medicare for All system And we are going to keep fighting till we get that. So we have tonight, in your programs, there are donation cards you can fill out. We know you've given up a lot tonight to be here and bear through this heat, but even just a small monthly contribution for those who can makes a huge difference. We have 2 dedicated staff members with a national network, members in all 50 states working on this. But there's a phrase for organizations that run these kind of grassroots campaigns. They are postage stamp poor, right? We count our pennies. And so every little bit you can give goes such a long way. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight, continuing to support this effort. I'm going to hand it over to my comrade Mark. Here you go.
All right, thank you. Isn't Katie a really nice person? Isn't she wonderful? Well, I'm a union guy, so I'm kind of a prick. And I'm here to tell you that everybody's got to pay their dues. Despite what the Supreme Court ruled in SEIU versus Knox, everybody has got to pay their dues. And you shouldn't leave tonight without paying your dues. We don't need any free riders in this movement. So we need you to step up and to finance this movement. Now, Michael told us some good reasons why we ought to be happy that the right wing got their ass kicked on this last Supreme Court decision. But besides the ACA decision, this has been a pretty horrible session of the U.S. Supreme Court. And one of the things that they did is, while telling unions that there are whole new obstacles in terms of being able to effectively finance and represent their members, corporations, they've reaffirmed, have an untrammeled right to free speech and an untrammeled right to buy as much of that free speech as their money can afford. And that's what we're up against in this fight to win health care justice for everybody in America. We are trying to finance a movement that will overthrow the biggest, most profitable industry in the history of the world, a $2.8 trillion business, and we're trying to do it by holding bake sales. And the time has come to really step up and for people to make the kind of contributions that we need to move this ball down the field and to win this fight. So we're really expecting everybody here tonight to take out the financial form and to reach into your pocket. I think we're going to be passing some buckets around the room. There's a few ways you can pay. You can pay in cold, hard cash, and there's people here tonight to take it. You can write a check or give your credit card number and give it directly to one of the Healthcare Now staffers here who will make sure that that's dealt with appropriately. Or you can go online and sign up for a regular monthly contribution, which I've been doing it for a couple of years, and I have to tell you, just like paying union dues, it's not all that painful. You know, that first time they take out the $20 a month or whatever out of your bank account, you're like, oh, that hurt a little bit. But, you know, you can afford $20 a month. I know the lines at Starbucks, I've seen some of you on those lines, and I know what you pay every day at Starbucks. So please, if you want to listen to some questions from Michael and the rest of the crowd here, please reach into your pocket now and help finance this organization and help bring us onward to victory. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we start some of the questions, and we're not going to take the questions for too long because I think everybody is really super hot. I just wanted to make an announcement that I was told earlier and forgot to announce, is there actually is air conditioning in the building, but they only put it on the 3rd floor. However, they put it next to, or in the bar. So when you're finished here, if you want to, there's a bar and air conditioning on the 3rd floor that everybody apparently is welcome to attend. So, your members for the night.
If you think that makes Philadelphia seem smarter, because they only put it on the 3rd floor and in the bar, I would not have told everyone that.
I'm not really from Philadelphia, so I don't have to have the complex. I'm a visitor. We have lots of questions here, and where'd Chuck go? Did you give some to?
I did. Yeah, Michael, do you want to?
I'll give him the mic and then this one. I'll have a Wendell mic and a mic and then.
Okay, this is the first question for Michael. Would you make a film about the Occupy movement?
About the Occupy movement, I've made that film for 20 years. It's called Roger Me, and then it was called Bowling for Columbine, then Fahrenheit 9/11, then SiCKO, then Capitalism: A Love Story, where I drove a Brinks truck down to Goldman Sachs to get our money back and put crime scene tape around the New York Stock Exchange back in 2009. So I move on to the next thing. The movement doesn't need a movie for me. The movement's already succeeded in touching a very strong nerve again, with the majority of Americans who believe that they've been screwed by the 1%, and everybody knows it, and that's really great. That's the first step. They got to know it, and now the organizing has to continue. But no, my next movie will be about something that nobody's making a movie about, and people are going to wonder. The people will be upset that I'm making this movie. So that's all I can say about it. Although I think it's a happy movie personally, but kind of like a romantic comedy.
That answered two of the other questions, which were, are you working on a movie and what is your next movie? So that was kind of...
I'm not working on the movie right now. I'm walking.
All right, here's another one, and then Patty and Chuck will take this over. But says 25,000 emails with healthcare stories is a gold mine. I was just talking to Wendell Potter about collecting stories. Mr. Moore, would you help the movement get more stories?
I think it's a great idea. And at the time when we got these in 2006, the internet wasn't what it is now. I don't know, some of these things like Google were only a couple years old. Facebook was a year or two old. It was very new back then. So we weren't kind of wired into thinking what else could we do with these 25,000 stories. But I think it's a great idea. I mean, I would put another thing out on the internet and ask people the same question if they would tell their stories and know that we're going to publish them. I think that would be a very, very powerful thing to do.
Maybe you could help the nurses who are doing this Tell Us Where It Hurts effort, where we're collecting stories, so maybe we could do kind of a joint thing. We like working. The nurses like working with you, Michael. That's a good thing. He says he likes nurses. That's a good thing. These Vermont questions, do you want to?
Yeah, one is, as many folks know, Vermont is a historic opportunity to win the right to health care. This is not just about Vermont, but about all of us. We are up against incredible odds and need the support of the whole nation. Please pledge your support by signing on to a letter called Vermont Can Lead the Way at www.vermontcanleadtheway.org. Appreciate your interest in Vermont, because truly something historic can and is happening in Vermont. Last year, the governor signed legislation that puts Vermont on the path towards single payer. It's the first time any state has been able to achieve that. They are against difficult odds because it's a small state, and the health insurance industry that I used to work for is pouring a lot of money into Vermont to scare people away from what's going on there. So do sign on to this, and one of the beneficiaries of the proceeds tonight is the Public Assets Institute. Paul Sillo, stand if you would, who is here from Vermont. And there are many, many advocates who've worked very long, for many years, to get Vermont to where it is now. So watch what's going on. I'm spending a lot of time there and hope to spend a lot more to help them out up there.
Thank you, Wendell. I know that the people, would you mention the site for the sign on to the letter again? Because I know folks are especially interested, Michael, if you would take a look at it. So we'll send you that link and you can take a look.
Yes, Michael, if you could sign it as well, too. It's VermontCanLeadTheWay.org. And Vermont is leading the way.
Great, thank you. Okay, and another question for Michael. Do you think the Democrats are the problem solvers, or are they the problem?
They're the other P word that I don't want to say in public. rhymes with wusses. That's the problem, really, I think. The Democrats had a difficult time behaving as if they had a spine, and I wish they would. This is what I admire the conservatives and Republicans so much. I really do. You know, they have got the courage of their convictions. They are relentless. They are up at 6 in the morning trying to figure out ways to screw us. And, you know, we've never seen 6 in the morning, most of us, unless we've been up all night. So I think that I just really admire their sort of discipline. And they're just like a dog with a bone, and they won't give up. And we're not wired that way. We're kind of all peace, love, and understanding. So that's just a great thing to be, but it also then wires us in a different sort of way of behaving politically. So we need a lot more agitation on our side and a lot more discipline to stick to it. But for right now, we got to get the House and the House out of the hands of the Republicans and make sure the Senate doesn't fall into their hands. Because otherwise, we're just going to sit around for 4 more years, and Obama's not going to be able to get anything done. We're going to have to make Obama do some of these things, because he's not going to do it himself. I think he probably would like that too, instead of being out there by himself. If he thought millions and millions of Americans were behind him, I think he'd be inclined to do those things. So.
Here's another one from Michael. Slight change in the subject. How do you feel about education for Americans? Do you believe it's a right?
Yes, of course. And most other countries do believe that. And they believe that the people should control the curriculum and make it a top priority. I mean, in other countries, it's a much higher priority than it is here. It's the number one thing I get asked to make a film about. Of all the subjects and issues and topics, the number one thing when I get stopped on the street or emails or whatever, please do a movie on our school systems. People are really upset with what they're seeing, and it's, again, they're trying to privatize our schools. And then we have crazy things like, the state of Texas gets to decide what's in all of our textbooks. And they were able to successfully get Thomas Jefferson taken out of the history book, in a chapter in the history book about the great philosophers of the Enlightenment and the ages after that, and he was one of them, and they made the book company take it out. So, it's a big problem. I don't want to take any time up tonight talking about it, other than I really think it might be worth taking a look at what Finland has done. Their students weren't doing very well about 5 or 6 years ago. So they formed a committee to study it. Their conclusion was they decided to outlaw homework. They got rid of homework in Finland. Now their kids are number 1 or 2 in every subject of the world. Science, math, reading. Finland, go on the internet and you can see, Finland, 1 or 2. Because what they found out was that kids, if you have kids, especially tweens and teenagers, they're up till midnight doing homework, right? Anybody have kids at home? They're up to midnight doing homework. How much, when, does anybody ever remember even doing homework? My age, or maybe an hour, right? Or study hall, there was study hall, and you did it in there. What the Finns decided is that kids should be happy, and if they're happy, they'll do better in school. They need to get outside and play with other kids. They need to learn to get along with other human beings. They need to socialize. They need not be inside doing homework, and they need not be at school at 7:45 in the morning. They need to sleep. They're growing humans. They need 8 or 9 hours of sleep a night. And we send them to school sleep deprived, unhappy. They don't get to have any time with their friends. And so the video game on the computer becomes their friend. And the Finns just said, this is really screwed up. So you can't give more than an hour's worth of homework, I think, each night in Finland. That's the one big thing they did. And the second big thing they did was to be a teacher in Finland, you're going to be treated like a professional. So they pay you what you would say what an accountant or a lawyer, you know, a basic lawyer would get, or you're paid a really good wage. But to be a teacher in Finland, you have to graduate in the top third of your class. So they all the public school teachers are from the top third of their class. So it's I think I just don't know why we don't go after these these things, and just some of these ideas are just so simple, we just, I don't know, it just gets worse, and now you have to read statistics like they asked a group of seniors at Ivy League schools, when was the Civil War? And they gave them multiple choice even to make it easy on them. And something like 52% got it wrong. And the multiple choice was wide, like 1850 to 1900. Nearly 20% of our schools that offer English Lit as a major now do not require you taking a single course in Shakespeare. How can you get an English Lit degree and never read Shakespeare? What has happened to us? I mean, really, it's just like, this should be a national security issue. Why, by dumbing down the country and raising a generation of completely ignorant young people, what do they think is going to happen with this? We're just going to continue to tumble like we are. Tumble, tumble, tumble. So this has to get fixed. I wish I could do it.
We think you've done a lot. We're going to wrap up the audience questions, and we SiCKOs kind of thought that it was okay for us to maybe wrap up the program tonight. Michael and Wendell are two guests of honor, and we were talking earlier today about what would we ask you, what would we tell both of you if we could tell you something collectively, and is it okay if I tell them what we would say, because we're all hot and we want to get out in some cool air. The name of the event was still SiCKO after all these years. And we did that purposefully, not just to attract people to come and attend because they knew Michael would be here and they knew you would be here, Wendell, because they aren't coming to see us so much. But we still realized that you could still ask for stories today, and those 25,000 stories could come in, and our stories would still be able to happen under the Affordable Care Act. All of the things that played out for each and every one of us would still happen. Donnell's baby could still be denied care at an out-of-network hospital. Reggie and the other 9/11 rescue workers, if they got hurt on the job and then later on lost their insurance through their jobs and so forth, could still end up out of luck for health care. Julie and Tracy could still lose their husband and dad to an insurance company denial. Adrian could still end up broke in her 20s and bankrupt from healthcare costs. Larry and I could end up losing everything we had and having to spend the last years of our lives as if we should be ashamed. So what we want both of you to know is the work's not done until it's done. And we will tell you when it's done. And we're telling you tonight, it's not done. So we're asking if both of you will stay in the fight with us until we get it done.
On behalf of Wendell, you don't have to worry about that. I wanted to start Thursday afternoon. I wanted us to seize the momentum right now on this issue. Seize it. Don't let another week go by without some sort of agitation, education, explanation, whatever. And let people know what you just said, that Obama's Health Care Act is like when you have a horrible toothache, it's clove oil. The clove oil will numb the pain for a little bit, take care of a little bit of it. It does not fix the tooth. This law does not fix the tooth, and it keeps control of our healthcare system in the hands of private, profit-making corporations. And you're right, the only way that the American people will stop that is for that to be exposed on a magnum level. People think it's only them. You feel so isolated in our society, and people think it's just their family, or maybe just the family down the block. And they start to realize how connected they are to literally hundreds of thousands of other Americans. I think a real movement will come out of this in a very profound way. And I want to encourage people, especially those of you who have no color in your hair or no hair at all out there in the audience, get with social media, please. All right? I was stunned me when I asked it about Twitter, and I just made a joke about it. But I got to tell you, this is the greatest invention of our lifetime, because it allows us to go past the middleman, the censor, the arbitrator of what information gets out there. You can get that information out there. You can make things go viral. You can start with just 10 of your friends and ask them to send it to 10 of their friends. And now you're talking to 100 people. And if they send it to 10, now you're talking to 1,000, just that quick. I mean, I have tried this. I've been so shocked by it. I don't need to take your time here, but I just want to give you an example of this. When the demonstrations were happening in Madison back in last winter, and I stayed up late one night on a Friday night. I don't know, I hadn't written anything about it, and I wanted to write something. I wrote this thing, and I read it, and I thought, wow, this is kind of good, actually. I don't usually say that to myself, because if you're a writer, you know how much self-loathing is involved. But this was really good, and I read it out loud. I said, wow, this is actually a speech. I should just go to Madison and give this speech. So I called up Eric here. Worked on my website, and was a producer on my films and stuff. I knew he'd be the only one up at 3 a.m. I said, hey man, I just wrote this great thing. I just got the Jones. I got to go to Madison and give this speech. He said, okay, let me see if they got anything going today. It goes on the internet. No, there's no demonstrations today in Madison. Ah, shit. I know, but I got to do it right now, because I feel it. Meet me at LaGuardia at 6 a.m. We'll get the next plane out that takes us to O'Hare, and we'll get to Madison. So that's what we did. We got there at 6 o'clock. We got on an 8 o'clock plane. While we were waiting to get on the plane, we sent a tweet out, and we put something on Facebook. That's it. Tweet, Facebook. That's it. Saying that I will be there at 2 o'clock on the steps of the state capitol. Anybody wants to come? I got a speech I'd like to give, and I'd love to hear from you. Eric says there were 50,000 people there. I say maybe 30,000. 6 hours notice. It was like, holy. I mean, seriously. And don't think, oh, that's just because it's me. Because in Michigan last week, when our state representative, she was removed from the floor of the House because she used the vagina word. She said vagina, and they banned her from the debate. They banned her, kicked her out. She couldn't, because she said vagina. Well, that's on a Friday, okay? The women in the House started tweeting. Meet us on the Capitol steps, 6 p.m. Monday. We women legislators are going to read the vagina monologues. Eve Ensler, who wrote the vagina monologue, because she's on Twitter, she saw that. She said, fuck, I'm getting on a plane going to Michigan. She got on a plane, flew to Michigan, because she wanted to be there for this. 6 o'clock on Monday, I can tell you, because I lived in Michigan most of my life, largest demonstration I've ever been involved in on the steps of the state capitol, 4,000 people. Okay? 3 days notice, women organizing it, 5,000 people out there on the steps of the state. It was like, people were like, wow. Social media. This can really be the fuel to drive the engine of this healthcare movement. If you're not with it, get with it. And get young people involved, because they're already there. And let's get them part of this movement, because it'll really take off, I think. That's my 2 cents of advice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the comment. She was asking Michael to support alternative medicine and so forth. Wendell, did you? Hang on.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Donna, and thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
I'm in this for the long haul, and I agree with exactly what Michael was saying. I think one of the things that the other side has, they've got money, they've got power and influence, but they don't have the people. And we've got the people, and social media indeed can be used. We don't really necessarily, and we can't rely on the traditional media to tell the stories that need to be told. And the word stories is so important, because what I do when I speak is tell stories, and this is the way that we can convey what really is going on and what we need to do next, and we can make a difference. We need to work more strategically and cooperatively, but we can really get a movement going in this country to take us where we need to go after the Supreme Court hearing, ruling. We can really get a single payer, I think, much more quickly.
Ray, we're going to ask you to tweet. Both of you tweet for us, too. Yeah, real quickly, because we want to close it down soon.
This question is for both Wendell and Michael. What advice do you have for those working on the inside of the health insurance industry? Wendell, you first, please.
Listen to your conscience and pay attention to what really is going on around you and within your companies. But I think the main advice is just to listen to your conscience and find the courage to do the right thing.
Okay, and I agree with that. My final word on this is, in addition to social media and all the other things we've talked about here tonight, is what I want to say to you is don't lose your sense of humor. In fact, your sense of humor is really needed right now. Humor is a powerful vehicle to deliver a political message. Powerful. And it can change things so much quicker with humor. I mean, if you were online on Thursday when CNN breathlessly announced that they had overturned the Obama health care law, within an hour, CNN was ridiculed and shamed beyond belief by the humor that was on the internet. People just started sending in other headlines, that CNN got wrong. Stuff going out in the news or stuff from history, Germans win World War II, stuff like that, according to CNN. But I know from people that work there, it has totally discombobulated them. They are having to change their procedures. They've sent out all these memos to try and their spirits of their reporters are low because they've been made fools of. Well, they made fools of themselves. But before the internet, they would have just glided right around that, pivot, and then everybody forget. Now, that's not a big deal, them screwing that up. But the point is that humor is a very powerful way to get to coalesce people, to bring them together. And they send it around to each other, and it's why Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert are so popular. Because, and Borowitz, all that is people love that. And so I want to encourage this movement to find ways to use humor. Billionaires for Bush was one of the great movements of the last decade. And they would show up in places, and it's just great. Plus, remember, the majority of Americans are not political, they are not activists, and they are on the way to being brain dead, not due to no real fault of their own. So they like to be around, though, people that are having a good time. They like to be around people who are funny. And you're gonna, it's a much better form of honey to draw people in to this movement if they see that not only are we gonna have a good time with this, and we're gonna have a good laugh as we pull this thing together, but we're so self-assured that this is what's gonna happen. We already know what's gonna happen. We already know that there's going to be single-payer universal health care in the United States of America, and there's no turning that train around, my friends. We already know this. We're not on the defensive. We're not morose. And as Wendell said, we may not have the bucks, but we've got the people, and that's the thing that scares them the most. You can have all the money they want, but in the end, when that curtain closes in the voting booth, the rich person has the same number of votes as the middle class or poor person, 1. And there's a hell of a lot more of us than there are of them. So know that as you walk out of here, you actually do hold the power. They know it. That's what they're really afraid of. That's why they have to spend so much money on TV lying to people, because it's the only way they can win it. And so the internet, the other things, we can stop that. But it's important that while you're doing this, to have a good time, and to do things that are fun and that make you happy, And don't be all the, nobody wants to be around that, all right? We all went to high school, come on. You know you know what table you wanted to sit at, you know? And I know because I always sat in the back of the classroom, you know, just firing shit out. So it was, I'm just saying that we'll be successful if we approach this maybe a little bit differently than the traditional ways that us boomers and 60s people have been approaching movements in the past. We're in a new time. We should pay attention to that and get on board. So that's it.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Wendell. Thank you, Philadelphia, for having us here. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Healthcare Now and Vermont Public Assets Institute. Good night, everybody.